Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Kaya Simone. Welcome to my channel. Here I just kind of talk about love and healing and spirituality and all things of that nature. So, if this is your first time seeing my face, welcome. Hi, nice to meet you. So, today I wanted to talk about giving yourself grace and why it is so important to give yourself grace. What I mean by that is forgiving yourself for the mistakes that you've made, showing yourself love when you need it extra, not pushing yourself or punishing yourself or belittling yourself for things that you didn't know. Now, this is something that I have always, everything that I talk about is something that I'm actively working on within myself and with on my own spiritual path. And these are things that I've just learned that work for me. And I wanted to share because I feel like could potentially work for other people watching as well. I've always been somebody who has been very highly critical of myself. And here comes a giant plane. So I have always been a very self critical person, but that's because of how I was raised and the things that I was taught about myself that I had to unlearn and relearn. So since I've always been a highly critical person, I've never given myself, well, I haven't in past times. I am presently doing this and working on this. And that's acknowledging how far that I've come on my journey already, right? I feel like I have accomplished so much in terms of self love. I have accomplished so much in terms of showing up for myself, acting out of love, moving with love, in how in my relationships and how I treat myself, how I see myself. I have made so much progress, but it's so hard for me sometimes to be able to see the progress that I've made because I'm always pushing myself to keep going and keep moving and keep grinding. And so one of the biggest first things that I first, one of the biggest things that I've learned when it comes to giving yourself grace, and this is something that's kind of come on recently. This isn't a lesson that I've had for a very, very long time. And that is resting. Yes, resting. I would have never known. Who would have thought? Who would have thought resting is showing yourself grace? Resting could be an act of self love. For so long, I thought that moving and making progress and changing was the love that I was giving for myself. But resting is just as equally important. So, when it comes to giving yourself grace, it's so important that the first thing that you do is allow yourself to rest when you need it or when you feel like you've been going for so long and for so hard. The only way to ever really know when you need rest is to check in with yourself. And by that, I mean, like really sit down with yourself and acknowledge the progress that you've made. Look back on how far you've come. Look at to who you used to be. I think, at least for myself on my spiritual journey, it was very easy for me to see where I was presently and then to just keep going. Be like, okay, I'm this person now and I can also be this person. I'm now this person and then I can also be the next version of myself, and so on and so on. But in order to actually rest, in order to acknowledge the progress that I've made, sometimes, and I don't mean by any means go back to the mindsets or go back to the people. I just mean look at how you would have handled a situation in the past. Look at how you would have treated yourself if you were in that situation with that person. Look how you would have shown up for yourself in the past versus how you do now. Because that's going to give you a really strong gauge on how far you've come on your journey. And that's what's going to allow you to be like, wait, I'm actually doing good. Like, I'm actually out here doing a damn thing. And so I see a yellow butterfly. That might be a sign for somebody, but yellow butterflies are a sign for me. It just makes me so excited because the more that I learn to rest and the more that I learn to give myself grace, the more peaceful life becomes and the happier and safer I feel with myself. So, first and foremost, you have to look back on how you used to handle situations or who you used to be, just so you can get a gauge on how far you've really come. Because I promise you, if you're somebody like me who just like keeps going and keeps your head down and just keeps grinding, you're going to look up and you're going to be like, oh my God, who am I? How did I get here? How did I become this beautiful being? But the only way to realize that was by resting. So that's the first step that I found in giving yourself grace. I think the second step is having faith that what you've already done is enough. And it seems very like generic. It's like, okay, yeah, sure, but like acknowledging that what you have done is enough to create what it is that you want or to have what it is that you want allows you to realize that you don't always have to be grinding. You don't always have to be moving forward. You don't always have to be making progress. For a long time on my journey, I thought that like continuous forward movement was the way to go. I thought that was the answer. And a lot of that came from the relationships and things that I experienced in the past. Because for me, my spiritual journey started out of a want to be happy, a need to feel love, the love that I hadn't been feeling in a while. And I started it there. And ever since then, up until recently, I've been running, just absolutely running from pain, hoping that if I constantly am making progress, then I'm not feeling sadness, and I'm not feeling pain. But that's not true. You're allowed to take a break. I you're allowed to rest. You're not going to fall back into any mindset because you've learned it. And one thing my therapist told me a couple years ago, she's no longer my therapist, but I love her. I loved her so much. She told me that you can't unlearn what you know. You can't lose knowledge that you have. And that really opened my eyes, because resting and pausing for a second, giving myself the grace to just be, I felt as if I was going to like all of a sudden miraculously somehow become the person that I once was, and all of a sudden start letting people treat me how I used to let people treat me, when that just couldn't be further from the truth. Another thing that I have found to be very beneficial in my ability to have grace with myself is to not judge myself. So like I can be so self-critical sometimes, so self-critical, even more than the outside world, right? I can be my own biggest critic. And so not judging myself allows me to not punish myself, because I don't need to be punished. There's nothing wrong. I always feel as if I need to be nitpicking at little tiny things, and it's just not true. It's not true at all. So the next thing for me in finding grace for myself is don't judge yourself. You're learning. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're doing something that you've never done before in this lifetime. Sure, our souls have been here before. Maybe your soul, this is the very first time it's on earth, which would be so exciting. But like, our souls are learning, right? We're allowed to make mistakes. We're allowed to not have the answers. And I would always judge myself for not having the answers or not knowing what to do next. It was just never beneficial to me, because again, you create out of love. You don't create out of fear. You don't create out of pain. And it took me so long with how my spiritual journey began to realize that you don't create from a space of pain or fear. The circumstances that I was in happened to be the circumstances. But moving forward, it does not mean that you have to continue to use fear and pain and suffering as a fuel for your journey, judgment as a fuel, punishment as a fuel. It's all it does is create problems for yourself, and then you start to feel like you're not good enough. Which is a whole nother thing. Oh my gosh, there's two butterflies. Oh, is it coming? Is it gonna be in frame? It's so pretty. um, but yeah, using pain and suffering and judgment as a fuel, we're cutting it out. Done. None of that anymore. That is not allowing yourself grace. So remember, please, if you remember anything, remember that judging yourself, belittling yourself, being very critical of what you've done or what mistakes you've made will keep you stuck. It won't push you back, but it will keep you stuck. And the whole goal is to have grace with ourselves, to be kind to ourselves, to love ourselves, and to give ourselves the space to continue to flourish, not to push ourselves down. Imagine if you continue judging yourself, right? You make progress in your journey, you learn something, right? Then you're here, you're stuck, and you're like, okay, well, I'm a bit confused. Now I'm going to start berating myself and beating myself up and belittling myself, right? Like you, no, you're just going to be bouncing back and forth between mindsets. It's so important that you're able to make progress, learn from mistakes, take the lessons from those mistakes, and then rest. Stay in that moment, stay in that peace. Then when you feel the need, when you have the strength again, when you feel good again, then move to the next stage. So it's so important to not judge yourself in order to show yourself grace. Or maybe not the last thing, but another thing that has really helped me in showing myself grace is having patience. Oh my gosh. Me and Miss Patience are going to have problems in this lifetime, I swear. Because me being impatient has been something I've struggled with since childhood. I remember being a little 6-year-old, and I'm still like just so impatient. But Having patience for yourself is another form of being graceful with yourself, because things don't always have to work at the time frame that you want them to work. Things are going to work at the time frame the divine says they're going to work. It's going to work at the time frame the universe says or God says, because that's the best time. There are things that we just can't see. There are things that we don't know. There are answers we just simply don't have yet. Doesn't mean we won't ever have them, but just not right now. And so I think having patience may be the biggest thing in showing yourself grace. Allowing patience to come in and ease your mind and your body and your soul. It allows you to see things from far bigger of a perspective than you were before. And it also makes it feel like you have more time to just evolve. Patience, ooh, when I tell y'all, I'm learning it, I'm working on it. Everything that I share is something that I myself am practicing and incorporating. But when I tell you, me and Miss Patience have had some issues. So, yes, if you were to take anything from this video, with the other thing I said as well, is to be patient with yourself, because things are going to happen as they're meant to happen. And you're allowed to be graceful with yourself. So yeah, those are my kind of tips and tricks or whatever that that I have learned and picked up on my journey that have helped me to show myself more grace. Of course, life within itself, my entire lifetime on earth, I'm going to be evolving, I'm going to be growing, I'm going to be learning about myself. And so there's no rush. So these are things that I'm still working on. But if you feel like they helped you or you resonate with some of these things that I've been talking about, definitely let me know down in the comments. I hope this video was beneficial to anybody who is struggling with being kind to themselves and just giving themselves the space to be. Because I promise you, I feel you, I see you, I've been there. And it's not always a good place to be. But remember, we have the power to change any mindset that we want, and we have the power to reach out to the divine at any point in time for love and for support and for help. So, yeah, that is all that I had to share for today. If you liked this video and you made it to the very end, thank you so much for watching. Definitely let me know down in the comments what you think about this video, and make sure to give this video a like. If you haven't checked out any of my other videos, make sure to go do that. And I will also have all of my socials linked down below. But yeah, I hope this video was useful to somebody out there, just like it was useful to me. And much love, guys. Peace.